There are moments in life when God places something big in your heart, a dream, a vision, a new direction. It may not make sense to anyone else, but deep down, you know it's from Him. You feel the gentle stirring, that spark of faith rising inside of you. And if you're not careful, the first thing you'll do is run and tell it to someone who was never meant to understand it. See, some things are sacred. When a farmer plants a seed, he doesn't go around digging it up every day to show everyone what he's planted. He leaves it in the soil. He waters it. He protects it. Why? Because he knows growth happens in the dark. It doesn't need the spotlight to flourish. It needs the right environment. And it's the same with your dreams. You don't need everyone's approval. You don't need to broadcast your plans to feel validated. You just need to protect that seed and trust the one who gave it to you. There will always be people who can't see what you see. Not because they're bad people, but because God didn't show it to them. He showed it to you, or causing more pain. And if you're looking for their understanding, you might end up disappointed. They'll say things like, "That's too risky. You're not qualified. No one in your family has ever done that." And if you're not rooted in faith, those voices can cause you to start doubting what you knew was real. But the truth is, when God gives you a promise, you don't need a second opinion. Your calling doesn't need to be voted on. Your destiny doesn't require a committee. Sometimes silence is your greatest strength. When Joseph shared his dream with his brothers, it only made them angry. Not everyone can handle the weight of what God is doing in your life. Some people will try to talk you out of it. Others will get jealous. And some will even try to sabotage it. Not because you're wrong, but because your dream exposes their lack of faith, causing more pain. That's why it's so important to discern who you share your vision with. Speak it in prayer before you speak it to people. Get clarity in the quiet before you seek confirmation from the crowd. When you're still in the preparation phase, don't allow someone else's doubt to become your reality. There is power in keeping it between you and God, just for a season. Now, that doesn't mean you have to walk this journey alone. God will bring the right people at the right time. People who will encourage you, pray for you, and believe in you even when it looks impossible. But until then, stay silent. Stay focused. Let your progress speak louder than your plans. Let your results preach the sermon. You're not behind. You're not forgotten. And you don't have to explain yourself to everyone. What God is doing in your life right now may be hidden, but it's not wasted. He's preparing the ground, stretching your roots, building your faith. The time will come when the doors will open, when the fruit will show, and when the very people who doubted you will say, "I never saw that coming." Or so today, keep walking quietly, keep working faithfully, and most of all, keep trusting deeply. What God has placed in you is too valuable to be thrown before opinions. Don't tell your plan to everyone. Let it grow in silence, and then let the world witness the glory. When God puts a dream in your heart, it's like planting a seed in the soil of your spirit. It may be small, it may not look like much, but it carries within it the potential to produce something extraordinary. But just like in nature, a seed doesn't need exposure to grow. In fact, the most important stage of growth happens in the dark. It happens where no one sees, where there's no applause, where the process is hidden and quiet. That's why it's so important to protect the seed. Some things are sacred. Some things are not meant to be shared too early. When you carry a divine vision, a God-given goal, you have to be wise about who you tell and when you tell them. There's something powerful about guarding the early stages of what God is doing in your life. Because at that point, the dream is still fragile. It hasn't taken root yet. It hasn't weathered the storms. And if you're not careful, someone else's words can come in like a cold wind and stop it from growing. All it takes is one negative comment, one doubting voice, one sarcastic remark to make you question whether the dream was real in the first place. That's why you have to treat it like something valuable. You wouldn't leave a treasure out in the open for anyone to take. You keep it safe. You'd hide it until it's ready. And your dream deserves that same protection. It's not about being secretive or living in fear. It's about being a good steward. When God gives you something new, a vision, a business idea, a ministry, a fresh direction, it's not always the time to go public. It's the time to go deeper. It's the time to pray, to plan, to prepare. It's the time to get rooted so that when the pressure comes, when the critics rise, when the obstacles appear, you're not shaken. Because you didn't build your foundation on someone else's opinion. You built it in quiet obedience, in silent faith. Imagine a pregnant woman who announces her pregnancy on the very first day. That would seem premature, wouldn't it? Why? Because everyone knows the early stages are the most sensitive. There's a process. There's a time of development, of growth, of nurturing. And it's the same with your purpose. It's okay, and it's okay to be excited. It's okay to be full of faith. But there's wisdom in waiting. There's wisdom in letting it grow in private before presenting it in public. Not because you're unsure, but because you understand the value of the process. The truth is, not everyone will understand what God is doing in you. Not everyone will cheer for your growth. Some people, even those close to you, might respond with doubt or criticism. They may not mean harm, but their words can still carry weight. If you're not firmly grounded, those words can chip away at your confidence. They can slow down your momentum. That's why it's so important to protect what doing before it's ready to stand on its own. What you're carrying is holy. It's unique, and it deserves to be handled with care. There's a time for everything, a time to speak and a time to stay silent, a time to declare and a time to develop. If you speak too soon, you might invite unnecessary resistance. You might open the door to discouragement. But if you wait, if you let God finish what He started in private, then when the time comes, the fruit will speak for itself. You won't have to convince anyone. You won't have to argue your case. The results will be undeniable. So be patient. Be intentional. Keep watering your seed with prayer, with faith, with diligence. Keep trusting the process even when you don't see results. Just because it's hidden doesn't mean it's not happening. Growth always begins underground. And when the time is right, God will bring it into the light. He'll open the right doors. He'll bring the right people. And what once looked impossible will become undeniable. Don't despise the quiet seasons. Don't feel pressured to prove something before it's time. The quiet is not punishment. It's preparation. It's God getting you ready. So honor the seed. Protect your vision. Let it grow in secret until it's strong enough to stand in the open. Because what He planted in you is too important to risk on premature exposure. And if you keep it sacred, causing more pain, if you nurture it in faith, you will see the fullness of the promise unfold right on time. Not everyone will understand your calling, and that's perfectly okay. What God has placed in your heart is not a conference call. It's a personal assignment. You weren't chosen based on a vote or a committee decision. God didn't need to check in with your friends or family before He placed that dream inside you. He saw something in you, your heart, your willingness, your faith, and He knew you could carry what others wouldn't even recognize. That's why you can't expect everyone around you to see it, support it, or even believe in it. When you're called to something higher, you will often feel misunderstood by those who are comfortable staying where they are. Sometimes we crave validation. We want people to cheer us on, to say, yes, you can do this. But the truth is, there will be seasons where your greatest encouragement will have to come from God alone. People might look at you and say, who do you think you are? Or, you've never done anything like this before. They might remind you of your past, your limitations, your mistakes. But none of that disqualifies you from your destiny. If God called you, then you are qualified. If He gave you the vision, then He will make provision. Causing more pain. You don't need the world's permission to follow a divine instruction. When Noah started building the ark, he didn't have a blueprint anyone else understood. There were no signs of rain, no storms on the horizon, but he obeyed anyway. People probably mocked him, doubted him, laughed at his faith. But Noah wasn't building for their approval. He was building for what he heard in his spirit. And sure enough, the rain came, and the very thing they mocked became the vessel that saved his family. In the same way, you might be building something that others don't understand yet. They don't see the storm coming. They don't hear what you've heard. But you keep building. You keep trusting. Because when the time comes, they'll see what you saw all along. It's important to remember that calling comes with a cost. Not everyone will be able to walk with you into the next season. Some relationships may fade, some support may dwindle, and that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes God allows people to step back so you'll stop depending on them and start depending more on Him. It's in the lonely places, in the misunderstood seasons, that your faith grows stronger. You learn to lean not on people's opinions, but on God's promises. You realize that being misunderstood by man is often a sign that you're understood by heaven. Your journey won't look like anyone else's. Your timing, your path, your battles, they're all uniquely tailored for the purpose God has placed in you. So don't compare your process to someone else's highlight reel. Don't shrink your vision to fit their comfort zone. If they can't see what you see, that's okay. They weren't meant to carry it. They weren't in the room when God spoke to you. They didn't feel the conviction, the fire, the calling that woke you up in the night and wouldn't let you rest. That wasn't for them. It was for you. Some people will be uncomfortable with your growth. Your discipline will challenge their complacency. Your faith will expose their fear. Your vision will make them question their own decisions. And instead of celebrating you, they may criticize you, not because you're wrong, but because your courage reminds them of their compromise. That's why you have to be careful not to internalize their doubt. Just because they can't see it doesn't mean it's not real. Just because they don't support it doesn't mean it won't succeed. Keep your eyes on the one who called you. Or let His voice be louder than the crowd. When He says move, you move, even if no one claps. When He says speak, you speak, even if no one listens at first. Your obedience isn't wasted. Your faithfulness is not in vain. You may be the first in your family to step out in faith. You may be the only one in your circle with a big dream. But that's because God often chooses the unlikely to do the extraordinary. He uses the overlooked to shift generations. And if you stay focused on Him, if you keep walking even when no one else walks with you, you will arrive at a place that proves it was all worth it. So don't be discouraged when people don't get it. Don't waste energy trying to convince them. Your life will be the evidence. Your peace, your progress, your breakthrough will speak louder than any explanation. You don't need applause when you've got an assignment. You don't need understanding when you've got a promise. Trust that God sees what others don't, and what He started in you, He will finish, whether or not the crowd ever sees it coming. Silence is not weakness. In a world that constantly demands noise, opinions, updates, and announcements, there is great strength in knowing when to keep quiet. There's wisdom in withholding your next move, your next dream, your next step until the time is right. Just because you're silent doesn't mean you're stagnant. Just because you haven't spoken, it doesn't mean you haven't heard from God. In fact, some of the most powerful movements begin in silence, behind the scenes, in the unseen moments where no one is watching but heaven is working. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is to stay quiet. Not because you're scared, but because you're strategic. Understand that silence is part of the process. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're not trying to prove anything. You're guarding what's growing inside of you. It takes strength to be still. It takes maturity to wait. It takes wisdom to hold back when everything in you wants to shout from the rooftops what you know God is doing. But wisdom says, let it develop. Let it mature. Let it become undeniable before it becomes public. Jesus Himself often moved in silence. He would heal someone and say, tell no one. He withdrew to quiet places to pray. He didn't announce every miracle, every move, every moment. He let the fruit speak. And if the Son of God knew the power of silence, how much more should we? There are times when God will place something so sacred in your heart that it's meant to be kept between you and Him for a season. You might feel the urge to share it, to celebrate it, to talk about it, but the Spirit will whisper, not yet. That's not restriction, that's protection. When you speak too soon, you open the door to unnecessary attacks, premature expectations, and often discouragement. The enemy can't stop what God has blessed, but he can try to distract you, delay you, and drain your faith if you're not careful. And sometimes the best weapon you have is not your voice, but your silence. Your silence becomes your shield. It allows you to move forward without interference. It keeps your peace intact. It protects your focus. In silence, God works on your character. He strengthens your patience. He deepens your trust. He sharpens your discernment. While the world may think you've stopped moving, in reality, you're just moving differently, quietly, strategically, faithfully. And when the time is right, when the roots are strong, when the foundation is secure, what was done in silence will be revealed in power. People will look at you and wonder how it happened so suddenly. But you'll know it wasn't silent. Your greatest growth may not be visible to the world, but it's visible to God. He sees every act of obedience, every moment of discipline, every quiet sacrifice. He sees the tears you didn't talk about, the prayers you whispered, the hope you kept alive when no one else knew. That kind of strength is not weakness. It's power under control. It's faith in action. It's knowing you don't have to shout to be heard in heaven. You don't have to post every blessing. You don't have to announce every breakthrough. Let your progress be the announcement. Let your consistency be your response. Let your results speak for themselves. The world is loud, but heaven responds to the humble. The proud make noise, but the faithful make moves. And those who walk with God closely understand that not everything needs to be explained. Not everything needs to be shared. Some victories are so personal, so deep, they're best kept between you and the one who gave them. Silence allows you to hear God more clearly. When the world is quiet, your spirit is louder. You start to recognize His voice above the noise. You begin to sense direction, correction, inspiration that can only come in moments of stillness. That's why the enemy tries to keep you busy, distracted, overwhelmed, because he knows that silence is sacred. He knows that in the quiet you become powerful. You become clear. You become focused. So don't feel the need to explain yourself. Don't try to defend what God is doing in your life. You don't need to prove your calling. You don't have to justify your process. Silence isn't hiding. It's preparation. It's what champions do before the battle. It's what visionaries before the unveiling. It's what faith does while the world waits. You are not weak because you're quiet. You are wise. You are tuned into something greater than applause or attention. You're walking with the God who sees the secret and rewards the faithful. So stay the course. Keep walking quietly. Keep growing in private. And when the time is right, God will make sure your voice is heard, not through your volume, but through your victory. Because silence in the hands of the faithful is never empty. It's loaded with purpose, filled with power, and leading you to a harvest that no man can deny.